Hi, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Here at USA Mortgage, we view you as customer for life. That means we are with you every step of your journey to help before, during, and well after you move into your new home. Home buying can be stressful, but we are here to make the process easy. I know drive and determination with my very talented team here at USA Mortgage will make for some incredible things. You can expect to receive great customer service from me with many customized options tailored to your financial goals and needs. So if you're looking to cruise into a new home or refinance, I can be the driver that gets you there. Call or text me at 502-680-0953 to find out how to get approved. MLS ID 448908. That's Acquisition LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
You have scoured the podcast world. You have finally found the place where news is weighed in the balance. Welcome to Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry. 2 words and 2 question marks.
We are back again for another Wednesday.
Yes, we are.
How do you feel, Jerry? How's life?
Life is good.
Did you know one of my favorite things in the world today is, one of my favorite things in the world is cobbler.
Okay.
Today,
Not just today, but every day.
Yeah. But today is National Cherry Cobbler Day, Jerry.
When is National Peach Cobbler Day? That's my favorite.
Is it?
No.
Me too. Oof, it's hard to beat a homemade peach cobbler. Oh my gosh.
Blackberry would probably be my second favorite.
I don't like the seeds.
You
Not a
don't
fan.
like the seeds?
Yeah, not a fan.
They get so friggin'
Yeah, that's the
minuscule.
problem. That's the problem. They get down to my gums and stuff. They hurt. It's also International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia and Biphobia Day.
Biphobia?
I don't even know what that is. It's also National Walnut Day.
I mean, I know what it is. I've just never heard of it before.
Yeah.
Got a day for everything, don't they?
Hey, this is one I want to celebrate. Today is National Idaho Day.
National Idaho Day. You like that state?
I love it. Like, listen, I'm just telling you, if I could move to any state, and not have to move and have a job, Idaho would be it for me. It's gorgeous out there. Now,
most people would be Hawaii, maybe. Steve, now give me Idaho.
If anyone has ever seen the Salmon Valley in Idaho, they would understand what I'm talking about. It is I've never been to a more beautiful place in my life. Yeah. It's gorgeous. And I would go out there and it was great. Hey, Mochi's already here. How about that? She beat double. I loved it. I would move back there in 2 shakes of a what's that expression? 2 shakes of a cat's tail.
Something like that.
Also want to apologize. Our mics are really sensitive today, and my dogs, I gave them bones right before before we went on the air, and they are chewing them up, and I can hear them, so I'm assuming you guys can too.
I don't think you need to apologize for that. I mean, compared to the neighbor's motorcycle gang next door, this is nothing.
Right?
Oh, you asked about how I was and how life is. I'm just glad that springtime is here and everything's warming up. I actually went swimming the other day. And
you went swimming?
Took a pee in the deep end of the pool. The lifeguard noticed and blew his whistle so freaking loud. So loud I almost fell in. Rather rude, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I hate that. God's honest truth, though, I have shy bladder. That would never work for me. I cannot. You know, you go into some of these older stadiums and they got the trough
Yeah.
for the urinal. I'm out. I'm waiting my turn for the stall, and that's that. I cannot, will not. Somebody's around. I'm out. I can't do
Shy
it.
bladder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome, Double.
Yeah, welcome, Double. Wow. So I
You're
learned
like the
something the
girl
other
that
day.
you.
Huh?
You're like the girl when she first started dating. A lot of girls, when you first start dating them, they refuse to go to the bathroom when you're around. Sound like you were similar with your shy bladder.
Oh, dude.
Sound like you're very similar.
Yeah,
You need me to give
maybe.
you one?
Huh?
Need me to give you one?
Give me one what?
Good dad joke.
No, I got one. I'm
Okay.
good. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. So, where do you go to learn how to make ice cream, Jerry?
I've heard they've got some pretty good ice cream in Idaho.
You don't know. You
Oh,
go to
okay.
Sunday school.
Oh, I like that. I bet they have some very good ice cream there at Sunday school as Steve leaves to shut the door, so hopefully you won't hear his dogs barking as they try to steal each other's bones.
They try to get on the show. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to be superstars.
Yeah, well, they've heard about what an exciting show and how only superstars are on here, so they wanted to join.
Well, at least one of us. I
True
like your
that.
shirt, by the way. And
The UK shirt.
I'll let you know for those at home that can't see, obviously. This is the one shirt that actually your white New Balance look great with.
My New Balance looked great with everything.
No, this is actually the same colors, so it makes good sense.
My shoes are the goat of all shoes. You got to admit that.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're jealous. That's the only thing that stops
I'm not. In fact, I want all the fans out there to know that if you ever see me out in public and you see me wearing white New Balance, please hug me because somebody is not giving me enough love in life.
you.
I'm just saying.
Or there's another very good reason that could happen.
What?
You got a decent pair of glasses to where you can see.
Oh my gosh. I said the story last week where I lost my glasses, right?
Yes.
I've been blind
Official.
all week for the most part.
You didn't have a backup?
I do, but I hate them. So it's like one of those, oh, I'll put these on and I just hate them. I hate how they look. I hate how they feel. I hate how they allow me to see.
That's the same way that I feel with all my shoes except for New Balance.
Yeah, but I gotta look good with glasses. You're not worried about that.
Not so
you're
much,
beyond that age at this point. So
Beyond caring.
hey, Mochi, I just want to state for the record, there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with a good pair of Crocs.
You've always loved Crocs.
I have.
Always have loved the Crocs. Used to be
have.
Crocs, you know, there's like, what, 2 or 3 styles? They've got a million styles.
Dude, I've got Croc tennis shoes. I've got Croc dress shoes. I've got Croc Crocs. I've got leather Crocs.
Crocs? What's a
Yeah, that's
Croc
the
Croc?
original, the OG
Okay.
Crocs. I've got leather ones. I've got
Leather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would you not have a pair of
I
leather
do not
Crocs?
want to know under what scenario are
Listen.
you wearing leather Crocs.
Listen.
I'm sorry.
I want you to understand, and all the fans in Radio Land to understand the gravity of what I'm about to say. I have loved shoes since I was probably about 16, started earning my own money and bought my own shoes. And there has been in my closet right now, we've discussed Imelda Marcos would be very,
Jealous.
very
Envious.
Thank you. But I ordered something on Monday. They're supposed to be here tomorrow, and I can't wait. It's the very first pair of Converse Chuck Taylors I've ever owned.
Really?
First pair. And I can't wait.
Why didn't you wear them when you were a kid?
I didn't like them when I was a kid.
Really?
I thought they were hideous, but they've
many
grown
pairs
on
of
me
them.
as I've gotten older. Huh?
I have had many pairs of Chuck Taylor's.
Yeah, I've never had one, and I found I was Slick Deals. I was on Slick Deals, and they're like, "Hey, look at here, 20." I think I paid like $22 shipping and all.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in. Of course, doesn't take much. I could literally said $200, and I'd be like, I'm in. Shoes are good.
Yep. Know what you mean.
So I like my Vans. I got a pair of Vans that I wear when I ride. They're high tops. They're very comfortable. They go with anything. Mine are black on black, so I like Vans pretty well too. I'm hoping the Chucks are similar. So there we go. Man, we got a lot to talk about this week. A big show next week. We're going to do, did we decide on 3 or 5 or how many did you want?
I didn't care. I just suggested more than one
Right.
because if I shoot it down in 5 seconds, I wanted you to have a backup story to go to. So
this is
seriously.
me giving Jerry raspberries.
All I'm saying is if you guys had any clue of some of the conspiracy theories that Steve has subscribed to previously and how easy they were to debunk, I'm just saying if it happened to be like some of those, we don't want the show to be, 5 minutes into
You're the one
it,
that
and
says
we're going,
we need to keep
if you
reducing the size of the show. So I keep saying we should go 2 hours, and you're like, nah, let's get in and out at 30 minutes. So
yeah. You bring one conspiracy theory and we'll be in and out.
So anyway,
minutes.
Next week's show, all about conspiracy theories. In fact, Jerry, where can they text or email us if they want us to talk about a specific conspiracy theory?
They can email us at newsworthy with Steve and Jerry at gmail.com. They can text us with the text number of area code 540-709-1318. I think Goose has decided I'm her best friend. She's over here rubbing on.
Are you allergic to her? Because that's
No.
usually who she goes to first.
For those that don't know, we probably told them before, but Goose is one half of Steve's one-eyed cat gang.
Yeah, she's got one eye. She's actually kind of a cool story. So I'll go ahead and share it. You brought her up. I'm gonna go ahead and share it. So Goose, when she was a kitten, was part of a large litter, and this raccoon had picked off the whole litter. Just so happened that the raccoon had come back to get Goose, had Goose in her mouth, was trotting off into the woods, and the owner came out and with a broom and saved her, took her to the animal clinic, the animal hospital. And this lady, cat lover, said, "Fix her, whatever it takes. If you can make it happen, make it happen." So Goose ended up being at the animal hospital for like 4 months. Had multiple surgeries on her face, lost an eye, her little jaw sits off sideways. The raccoon did some pretty serious damage. So everybody at the animal hospital got very attached to Goose. And so the lady finally comes in to pick her up because she's finally healthy enough to go home. And the lady comes in and picks her up, and she's like, "Oh, is she always going to be that ugly?" And Robin was like, "Yeah. And, we did the best we could. There wasn't much left." And she's like, "Oh, I don't want her." She's like, "What?" She goes, "So what's my bill?" Bill was over $4,000. $4,000.
Did she pay it?
She wrote a check and paid it.
And
then said, "Do you want her?" And of course, that's how we ended up with Goose. Paid $4,000 to repair her, to take care of her, to bring her back to health, and then just left her.
Was she still a kitten at that point, or?
Well, I mean, she was 6 months old at that point. Okay. So yeah,
half-grown cat.
Yeah, half-grown at that point.
$4,000 for a cat and didn't want her.
I know what you're thinking.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say it, but I know what you're thinking.
Yep, you're right. That's what I would have done. But thankfully, worked out that way. You guys have a great cat. Steve used to always say that he didn't like cats. He hated cats.
Pretty much.
For those who believe that, I've got some nice photos I can send to you of Steve loving on cats. One actually of him asleep on the couch with Goose sleeping on his chest.
So my question is, when did you sneak in my house to be taking these pictures?
No, your wife give me that one. She took that.
That didn't
one
happen.
time
That was staged.
After you were trying to claim that you still hated cats.
See,
your wife was kind enough to give me that one.
No. What happened was I was asleep on the couch and Photoshop. Just gosh.
While you were asleep.
While
you
I
needed to be asleep for the Photoshop to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody sleeps, and I just happened to be out working all day and just happened to doze off, and then Photoshop. Somebody they could have put like a pile of steaming poop on my chest with the Photoshop, but they chose to put a cat because that'd be much more fun.
Yeah. Let's go with that story.
Yeah. Speaking of stories, why don't we go in for the? Why don't we learn how to speak, Steve? We've only been doing this over a year, so you figured have it figured out by now.
Jonah, Mavis, welcome. Thanks for joining.
Oh wow! Hey, glad you're here. Absolutely, I'm glad you figured out that last name. I wasn't gonna try.
I didn't try the last name. I did first names.
Okay, good.
Jonah and Mavis.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. So let's go ahead. Let's dig into some topics, Jerry. What you got for us tonight, man? I'll let you lead off. Yeah,
sure. I want to start with one of your favorite guys, George Santos.
George Santos, one of my favorite guys.
No, is he not?
No.
I thought he's one of your heroes.
No.
We talked about him a few weeks ago and how absolutely disgusting this guy is. He's lied about everything there is to lie about. I don't know if you guys have heard, but this past week, a Democratic representative, Robert Garcia, started the process of forcing a vote on a motion that would expel George Santos from the United States Congress. And again, this guy's lied about everything. When he was running for office, he claimed that he had earned degrees from New York University and Baruch College. Neither institution has any record of him ever even attending, much less graduating. He claimed to have worked with Goldman Sachs as well as Citigroup. Both are untrue. He claimed that he was Jewish, that his grandparents escaped the Nazis during World War II. None of that is true. He has admitted to fabricating huge parts of his resume. He was elected to office based on absolute total lies. He's also currently facing a number of criminal charges. Now, with all that being said, I absolutely do not think that George Santos should be expelled. In my humble opinion, if you haven't been convicted of a crime, it shouldn't be possible for you to be kicked out of office. I don't care if you're George Santos or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Ooh, or that's your favorite, right?
Yeah, really. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your favorite. I don't care if you're one of the two Tennessee State House representatives that were kicked out of office a few weeks ago by the GOP. By the way, both of those guys have been reinstated and are back in office. But the point is that this is a dangerous road to start down. And the way that politics and politicians work, everything is tit for tat, only the tit for tat ends up being the payback is usually twice as bad as the original. So I can only envision if we start down this path where it ends. But I have a pretty good idea. It will continue to get worse and worse until the day is going to come when one party is going to be in power and they're going to kick everyone in the other party out of office. Everyone. You can't do this. When voters elect someone to Congress, you are to the state, Senate, or federal Congress. I just don't think that we have a right to kick them out because we don't like the way they look, the way they talk, or something they believe in. If they haven't committed a crime, I believe that because they were elected by the voters, that they have a right to be there. So, as disgusting as I think George Santos is, I think that the Democrats are making a huge mistake in trying to get him expelled from Congress. What do you think?
I think that's a very good way of putting that is a bad precedent to set.
It is.
Now, the two things that we discussed, if he's found guilty of a crime, then we need to have that conversation.
And that should be a law itself. Yeah. If you want to say, you would need to codify it. I'm not saying that because someone got convicted of a speeding ticket that they get kicked out of office. So you're going to have to say exactly what crimes are allowed and not allowed. But let that be the criteria, not because
I don't like
I
you,
don't
or
like you, or I don't like something you said, or you believe
well,
in whatever.
the something you said in this case is what he done wrong. He was saying a lot of stuff, so but he shouldn't be given the same protections under the First Amendment for lying. I mean, that's just. Um, I agree with you. He very much won office based on a bunch of stuff that was misleading and false.
Furthermore, he is currently facing federal charges of fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. So why rush?
Right.
Let that play out. If it does, kick him out of office because of the criminal convictions. Now, I do think this. I do think that McCarthy should have suspended him from committee assignments until the results of that come back.
I agree.
Uh,
That
but
would
then
have
let
been
him sit there and twiddle his thumbs. You don't need to
yeah,
kick him out.
yeah. In retail, we always had that whole thing that toward the end of our retail career, to become very difficult to get rid of a bad employee because lawsuits and everything HR had to get involved, and you had to have a proof. It was a much simpler solution. You schedule them for 2 or 3 hours. All of a sudden, that big huge problem is a very very small problem.
And that was possible for the part timers.
Yeah,
For your full timers, not quite so easy.
yeah. Well,
And the full timers that have been around for quite a while, they knew what you could and couldn't do. They knew who to call if you tried to overstep the
yeah,
bounds and all that. So we still had some problems, but there was usually a way around it.
sure. But I agree with you. This is one thing you and I are not going to disagree on this. Imagine that.
Probably not where you thought I was headed when I
I thought
started
you were going
talking
to be
about George
celebrating, to
Santos.
be honest, because I know how
No,
much you dislike the fella.
no,
But
no. Yeah, I absolutely dislike him. But what I dislike even more is starting a precedent that will end, I believe, very badly.
yeah, no, I agree. And anytime we're talking about Washington
Yep.
folks, anytime you give them just a smidge of power, they're going to take
Thanks.
a bucket full. So we
Yep.
don't want to do that. And it's the same thing with it very similarly is the same thing as all these stupid executive actions that the
Yep.
presidents take. Boom, boom, back and forth, back and forth. It's ridiculous. So,
Yep. I agree.
on that same note, and I'll probably get into it in a couple of weeks a little more. Why does Washington, D.C. have just never mind? I'll hold off on that for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But, yeah, I can't believe I got to say this. I agree with you, Jerry.
Well,
It hurts my
it's
heart.
the case. It's with most subjects. It's because I'm right. You admitted that a long time ago. He laughs, but he knows it's true. This all
No.
started when he was a 16-year-old kid, and I hired him, and he was the most liberal guy you'd ever met. But he had no reason for being liberal. He hadn't researched it. At that point, he was like most 16-year-old kids. He was simply following the politics of his family. That's what he'd heard. That's what he'd been taught. He hadn't done much research. So after being around me for a few months, he began to question a few things. And
not
not
a few
long after,
months,
he was
because I voted for Clinton
conservative.
twice. So, and the first time I voted for Clinton, it was because I thought he talked a good game, and then the second time I did it because my we'll talk about that.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Clinton the last Democrat that the state of Kentucky voted for?
Yes,
When I say voted for, won the state of
right.
Kentucky.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure, and he won both times that he ran. He got the vote.
It's that Southern connection. He's from Arkansas.
That's part of it.
He's
doesn't hurt.
And
he was very well liked. He was very congenial, easy to like.
Yeah,
very personable.
Apparently,
I'm not saying his politics suck. His politics, with no pun intended.
No, not entirely, because at least even though he would always thumb the wind to see where he was going to vote, he at least was smart enough that if the Republicans came to him and had a winning solution, that he was going to get behind. He would. So that made him a good politician, if you will, if there is such a thing. But so. You done with Mr. Santos?
I'm through with Santos, hopefully forever.
Well, eventually they're going to get rid of him, and we'll have to mention
McCarthy,
anyway.
by the way, last week said that he would not support Santos' re-election campaign, which Also, last week, he announced that he did intend to run for reelection.
Isn't that crazy? Just hard headed. Just hard, just getting in there.
I think 5 of the 6 or 7 New York congressmen have asked that he resign, including the GOP. As far as I'm aware, every single GOP member of the House of Representatives from New York has requested him to resign. Still refuses, still says he's going to run for reelection.
Wow.
What do you got for us?
So your favorite topic or your favorite app on your phone by far is TikTok.
It's one of the top.
It's all I hear about. Steve, you'll call me up in the middle of the night. Steve, I just watched this crazy TikTok. You ought to watch it. I honestly do not have TikTok on my phone. I know my daughter likes it. My boys like it.
You watched a few that I sent. You don't have to have TikTok to. If I send him a link, there's been a few. I can watch a few videos.
Yeah, but nobody apparently likes TikTok, or at least likes TikTok less than the governor of Montana and the Senate in Montana. The Montana governor 2 hours ago signed a bill banning TikTok in the state. Now, the first question you asked me was
that only for state employees?
For state employees? And the answer is no. He's banned it from being available on the mobile phone applications where you go to search for new apps for your phone. So Apple Play or Google Play Store, Apple, whatever. I even have Apple and don't even know what it's called. But
Apple Store, I think.
Yeah, the Apple App Store. Let's look. But anyway, they're not allowed to have it within the state of Montana, which I don't know how that's legal. I don't know how that the technical, like if you're driving through Wyoming and go into Montana, does it just boot out for your phone? I don't think so.
No,
but
and could you use a VPN to make it look like you're somewhere else and still
down? That all of those are optional.
So it's this is silly.
Well, it's silly, but the theory behind it is sound.
No, it's not. You don't even know what the theory is, so don't even go there.
What do you mean?
You think the theory behind it is sound. What's the theory behind it?
Oh, well, the fact that it is a Chinese tech company, ByteDance, that owns it, and that ByteDance, in and of itself in America, is its own company, but it is a Chinese subsidiary.
So every Chinese company we have nothing to do with?
No, I don't say that.
Because I'm pretty sure that a huge portion of the materials that are purchased in America are made in China.
Sure.
So those Chinese companies are okay, but this one's not. Please explain why.
Because this one has access when you go in and you okay and you hit the I accept button, you're giving China a lot of leeway in your phone.
Like what?
Like bunches of stuff.
Tell me. Give me some examples of what you're giving.
They're allowed to download your contact list.
No, they can't.
If you allow it. How many of these kids that have it?
It doesn't even request that. It doesn't ask for that. Okay. I've had this app for years, so don't tell me what it's.
I'm sorry, Mr. China. Go ahead.
Just tell me. I can pull it up and show you what permissions it has on my phone. Would you like to see that?
No, I absolutely do not.
Please tell me how it's a national security risk. That's what you're saying. What you're doing is repeating things you heard Trump say. If you haven't figured out by now that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
I don't listen to Trump any more than I do you half the time.
Then who are you getting this from? That it's a huge security risk? And tell me once again exactly how it's a security risk.
Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll do my research on it thoroughly, and I'll bring this topic back up again.
In other words, for those of you, the uninitiated, that means you'll never hear from him again on the subject. He always tells me that. Let me do some research and I'll get back with you. 4 years later, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought we were going to discuss Pizzagate. Remember all that research I did and those emails that I sent? Let's talk Pizzagate.
The other thing that the bill signed, you always bring up Pizzagate. And I told you from the very beginning that I didn't necessarily partake in the belief of Pizzagate.
No, but you pretty strongly believed in it to begin with.
No, would you let me finish, please? I said, but there are a lot of dots that connect. That's all I said. And you
No
strung that
doubts.
out into, oh my gosh, you're such a believer. We're going to have
No
this
doubts it's
conversation
gonna-
again next week. I guarantee it.
What, Pizzagate we're going to be
No, I'm
discussing?
not bringing Pizzagate up unless one of our listeners want to hear all about it.
I don't think anyone wants to hear about
Giaforte also
Pizzagate.
prohibited the use of all social media applications that collect and provide personal information or data to foreign adversaries on a government-issued devices. So,
That's smart.
huh?
That is smart.
So there you go. That
Now,
was the
here's why
second part
that's
of the
smart.
deal.
If you're not careful when you are using social media, let me give you an example. If you're a 19-year-old kid and you just signed up to the Army, and like most kids, you're going to be proud of the fact that you're a United States Marine or whatever branch you're in, and there's going to be pictures of you, right?
Yep.
In your uniform. Now, if you're like a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, you're going to be posting no matter where you're at, right?
Yep.
No matter when you're deployed, no matter where you're at. What you are enabling whoever, other countries to do is to track you and your unit's movements, because they can, when you post, your internet protocol, your IP address is going to be available, which can be DNS to get a good idea of exactly where you are in the world. So for many people in sensitive jobs, they absolutely should not be allowed to use social media, not just on government issued phones, but personal ones as well when they are actively deployed in any sensitive capacity. So a lot of these things make sense for the guy sitting at home. That by the way, I was asking you what information does TikTok have, they certainly absolutely have your IP address. So what? If I'm sitting here in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, using TikTok, and they see that I'm in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, 99% of the time, it's telling them absolutely nothing. If I'm a U.S. service member traveling around the world in deployment, it's telling them a shitload. So for most of us, TikTok, Facebook, whatever is absolutely fine. For certain people, it's absolutely not fine for them to be using it on their devices.
Well, you know what is fine, Jerry?
What is
USA
that?
Mortgage is fine.
Yes, it is. The mortgage market changes often, so it's important that you have your mortgage professionally managed.
Yes, sir. Ed Locke with USA Mortgage offers great personalized customer service with even more customized options tailored to fit your financial goals and needs.
So if you're looking to cruise into a new home, he can be the driver that gets you there.
Call or text Ed at 502-680-0983. That's 502-680-0983 and find out how to get approved. NMLS ID 448908 Acquisition Company LLC doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and commissions apply.
USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Absolutely, they are.
I'm going to have to go get another soda. I am out. While I'm away, you want to tell them what you're drinking this week?
Yeah. Jerry has bailed on me for some sweet wine. He's got to get his sugar back under control. So I am drinking Bella Bolle Red Moscato, which is a product of Italy. It's delicious. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And since Jerry's gone and he can't be proven wrong, Jerry is a very, very forceful guy when he argues. He's very good. And I know that a lot of times that we get on here and it sounds like we're just going at it. That's just here. We do this all the time. And that's part of what makes us good because we can yell at each other and then go have a beer afterward. So it's not a big deal.
And it helps that, no matter what he says, at the end of the day, Steve realizes that I'm right.
No. Hi, Eddie Scatty.
Hey, Eddie.
So Eddie came to see us. She's such a good girl. Anywho,
whose turn is it?
It's your turn, sir.
My turn. Last week you brought up the debt ceiling.
I did.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about that.
Sure, we should. Absolutely. There's been some movement. Finally.
There has. there's been some movement. Um, and I got to thinking about it. First of all, what is the debt limit? It's also called the debt ceiling. It's simply a cap on how much debt that the federal government is allowed to accumulate. Now, Congress is constitutionally required to authorize the issuance of debt, and doing so then allows the government to borrow to meet its existing legal obligations. And there's many, there's tons of things that the government pays: Social Security, Medicare benefits, salaries, federal employees, military, tax refunds. A huge one is interest on the national debt. That's
The
huge.
biggest,
Biggest.
probably.
Um, now, there's also a lot of confusion, and I don't know if you meant it. I'm sure you probably were being facetious that you didn't mean it. But last week you made a statement. You said that it would be better for Congress to default than to give Biden what he's wanting, a blank check. The debt ceiling isn't a check. The debt ceiling isn't a blank check for anyone. The debt ceiling doesn't authorize payment of one penny to anyone. It doesn't. I mean, I don't even know where you come up with that. A blank check to Biden. If they agree to the debt ceiling increase, which, by the way, all that is doing is giving Biden's Treasury Department the authorization to pay the bills that Congress has already said that they're going to pay. They've already committed to it. They committed to it with budgets, which Congress has to pass.
Which we haven't had an actual budget in how long? How many years do you think?
Yeah, that's part of the problem. But here's the point: this is Congress's problem. And Congress is going to the president and saying, hey, we've got a problem. And guys, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should not control spending, because if we don't, it will kill this country. All I'm saying is that when there's a need to increase the debt limit, is not the time to negotiate on spending. You do that when you're deciding on the budget. That's when you decide what you're going to pay, what you're not going to pay.
Sure.
But this isn't about how much we're going to pay. This isn't about what's going to be authorized or not authorized to spend money on. This is things that Congress has already passed budgets and passed laws and said, we're going to do this.
Yep.
Now it's time to pay the bills. And Biden is saying, hey, we no longer have the ability to pay these bills because we're at the $31.4 trillion limit you guys have set. So you guys need to raise it. I'm not saying that negotiations don't need to happen. They must happen. This is not the time for it. Secondly, when you made the comment, and last Wednesday, Trump had a town hall meeting on CNN. Did you get to see any of that?
I've saw enough of the clips since. Yeah.
Maybe that's where you got it, because he said exactly the same thing.
I that was after our show.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But he said the exact same thing.
Maybe he was listening to Newsworthy.
Maybe.
Hey, Pastor. Hey, Albie. Glad you're here.
Let me find it here. But anyway, Trump said the exact same thing. He was talking to GOP congressman, and he said, here it is: if they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default. He also downplayed the consequences of a debt default. And he said this, I quote, it could be really bad, or maybe it could be nothing. Maybe it's a bad week or a bad day. Who knows?
Yeah.
If the United States defaults and doesn't pay our debts, it could be a bad week or a bad day. Folks, the United States government defaulting on debt, let's put it in words that we're more common and used to hearing. This is the equivalent of an individual declaring bankruptcy. Same thing. You can no longer afford to pay your debts. Exact same thing. Now, if you have to declare personal bankruptcy, how do you think it's going to affect your economic situation? Is it going to be a bad day? Bad week? How about when you are the best in the world and have been for many years? That's what the United States is. We're the benchmark. Right? The United States dollar is the world's currency and has been for many years. That's beginning to come in question, but for many years, we've had the highest standard in the entire world.
In the last 2 years, we've dropped 40%.
Dropped what, 40%?
40 different countries, not 40%,
40
40,
countries.
40 countries.
Using our money as
Yes.
the benchmark. The point is, if we default, guess how many we lose?
All.
100% of them.
Yep. I
They're
don't
all
disagree
gone
with you.
immediately.
But and the reason that I'm purely speculating because I'm not in McCarthy's shoes. I think that they bring this stuff up now because it does have pressure attached to it.
It does.
And that's the only reason. Now, the same thing could come right back on McCarthy and say, okay, so you've got him to the negotiating table and you're going to figure something out. We're going to raise the debt ceiling. But how about now you go do the real work and create a balanced budget for the next 5 years? That would be nice. Or even better, go back to the table and create a net negative budget for the next 5 years
to start paying down the debt.
So we can start paying down the debt because very, very, very rapidly at the pace that we are going, within the next 10 years, not only is in Social Security, which to me, and you and I think, agree on this, should not be a part of this equation, period. It should have already.
It should not be part of the negotiations.
It shouldn't be a part of the negotiations involving the budget entirely. This is was created, and up until the mid to late 80s, early 90s, was solvent of the regular budget. It was its own thing.
Until they started stealing money from it and using it to pay for everything else.
Right, exactly. So, but we've got, within 10 years, not only is Social Security going to be insolvent, but every single dollar that's not already basically all discretionary spending.
Within
every bit of it. I think it's 10 years.
Okay. That's based upon certain
criteria.
Certain formulas.
I mean, you can put in whatever criteria, but the going statement that everyone's using is within 10 years, the entirety of discretionary spending that Congress has control over will 100% be going to the national debt.
Unless we change something.
Now, so how about you, Mr. McCarthy? After you've gotten these few little battles, you've spanked the president's hand a little bit. You've got your highlights. How about you call up probably the smartest budget guy in Congress. You call Rand Paul, and you guys get your heads together and come up with an actual budget to start dropping the debt.
Yep. Now, to add to that, in 2016, when Trump was elected, GOP controlled all three houses: the White House, the Senate, and the House.
Wasted opportunity.
And what budget cuts were made?
Wasted opportunity.
What debt was reduced?
You got it.
Now, folks, I have long been a conservative, was a Republican for most of my life. I've said many times until I heard Rhino one too many times from Trump and decided I could fix that, and I became an independent. But fiscal reasons are one of the primary ones. And you're absolutely right. The GOP talks a good game, and it's easy to say, well, the Republicans believe this. I don't care what you believe. When you're in office, what are you doing? What are you accomplishing?
Show us. Don't talk to us about it.
I don't do it. Somewhere along the line, you got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. In 2016, they had a chance. You know what they decided to do? That plus.
I mean, seriously.
We did do one thing. We had a huge tax cut.
Oh, yeah.
We decided that the tax cut was far more important than paying down the deficit.
Yeah.
The tax cut ended up adding to the deficit. They had to have a debt ceiling increase because of the shortfalls. In other words, they brought in less revenue after the tax cut. So that's part of the problem too. Little math exercise. We know that if we default, that it is going to make it much, much harder for America to borrow money, and it's going to increase the rates. What if the interest rates went up by 1%? It's not that much, right?
No,
what if it just went up 1%? We owe $31.4 trillion. 1% of that is an additional $310 billion that we pay in interest every year. Not total interest, additional $310 billion just because we defaulted and the interest rate went up 1%. Now, in 2020, there was 157 million tax returns filed in the United States. If you divide that $310 billion by all 157 million tax returns, that means that every single taxpayer in the United States has got to pay an additional $2,000 per year. That's at 1%. What if this went on for a while? What if it raised our rates 3 or 4%?
It's crazy.
You do the math.
Listen,
That's what. Let me
and-
finish one thing, and you can say whatever.
Sure.
That's why you're wrong when you said we should do a default.
No, I was
before we give him a
absolutely being
blank check.
facetious.
Trump actually come out and said the same thing on his CNN town hall meeting when he was talking about you got to default. We absolutely cannot default.
I understand trying to have a backbone and trying to, but you have got to. This is one situation where both sides have to come to the table and make it happen.
Yes.
Period. Can't do it. I mean, you cannot let it default. And I was totally being facetious.
Good. I thought so.
Yes. But from a perspective of what I just said, you've got your debt ceiling raised. You've done your little tit for tat. Now do the real work.
Fix it.
Fix it.
Fix the real problem.
And for folks who doesn't quite understand, I mean, numbers are really hard to understand. Period. Especially on the radio and a podcast. 1 million seconds is just over 24 hours. 1 billion seconds is over 33 years.
Yep.
Just so you know, that's the disparity.
Trillion seconds,
and a trillion second is probably over 100 years. Probably a millennia or something. It's insane the number of dollars we're talking about. It's insane.
If you don't believe it, just write the number down.
Yeah.
The number of zeros will blow your mind. Just the friggin' number of zeros involved.
I mean, it is an insane amount of money. And, the American economy has been a juggernaut since World War II. And we've been allowed to easily borrow this money because, we can pay it off. It's not a big deal.
Yep.
But we're at the point now that even if we stopped all discretionary spending, if we cut we did the Democrat thing of taking away all the money from the 1%, all of the revenue. If we cut our defense budget in half, which, by the way, would very quickly make us a prime target for takeover.
But no one's
proposing
that
that
we should do that.
But even if you did all those things, you're still looking at 100 years to pay this down at some point. And for the life of me, Jerry, I can't understand why a politician of any ilk, Democrat, Republican, cannot see the damage.
They can. I'll just say right now they can.
And they don't care.
They do care, but not enough to here's the problem. You and I have talked about it before, term limits. On one hand, they know what needs to be done. On the other hand, I want to get reelected.
Yeah.
How do I get reelected? I certainly can't be cutting anybody's money. I can't be taking away any of the benefits we've given them in the last 60, 70 years. So all we do is we want some votes. Okay, well, let's offer them some more. Republicans are offering tax cuts. Democrats are wanting to give welfare for anything and everything.
Right.
Between the two, we end up doing a little bit of both, and we never take anything away. And they're always too worried about getting reelected to do what's right, which is sit down. I remember Rand Paul in a presidential debate. They asked him a question. He kind of shook his head and rolled his eyes a little bit, and he said, "You're not going to like this, but," and I loved his answer because before he even said it, he knew where he was headed, and he knew that people weren't going to like it, and he knew that he was costing himself votes. But he was man enough to stand there and tell the truth. Yeah. Here's what we need to, and he had a question. The question was something about how do we make Social Security solvent long term? Yeah, that's not some easy solutions.
Yeah,
that is going to take some serious cuts that people don't want to hear about. And he stood there and answered it instead of the typical political answer, which is, well, we're going to give you this, and they promise you the world, and they know they can't deliver 1% of it. They're too worried about getting reelected. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're always trying to get reelected.
Well, I happen to disagree with them on Social Security. I for the life of me, and I disagree with most Republicans when it comes to Social Security. To me, Social Security, in effect, has become an entitlement, but it was not produced to be an entitlement. Yep. And if they have made it an entitlement, that's on them, not on the people, me, you, and everybody else that works in this country and pays into Social Security for that safety net. And for him, and this is the one biggest disagreement I have with Rand Paul, and every other politician that treats Social Security as an entitlement, they make me so flippant
He
and
does that?
angry. Well, he did in that case. Well, if we're going to make Social Security insolvent, well, you can't retire until you're 72.
No,
That was
no.
one of the things.
Oh, well, he may have said raising the age, but
Raising the age and making more payments toward it. And
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Here's the point.
it's not, but Jerry, had
What?
Social Security been established and continued without interruption, like it always had been prior to, and I don't remember when they started.
It still would have been in
80s,
trouble.
Maybe.
No, maybe to it. Here's the problem. Average life expectancy has gone up by
Sure.
so many years that originally the mathematical formulas that it was based on was, okay, full retirement at 67. Well, they're going to live to be 72, so we're going to have to figure out how to pay them for 5 years. Well, now it's 80.
Well, right.
So now we got to pay them for 13 years.
Yeah.
The mathematical
13 years.
formula doesn't work. So it still would have been in huge trouble. So raising the retirement age somewhere, you're trying to get back closer to. Originally, it was meant to last for 5 or 6 years, and now we're saying it's got to last for 15. We got to close that gap a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not working until 5 years within my death. I pray.
Well,
not happening. And they penalize you now for that too.
For
Just this is what I don't like. If you draw your Social Security, but then you're able to still get a part-time job, you get penalized and they take some of your Social Security away. If you're on food stamps or welfare, they don't take your they take your welfare away too.
They should.
So which is it? So we're the money that we're giving you free, we're going to take away, but not the money that you've earned.
Let me add one thing,
Sure.
an update to everything that I said about the debt ceiling.
Sure.
They had another meeting this afternoon, or no, this morning, I think, before he flew to Japan. After the meeting, McCarthy and McConnell walked out of the White House, and there's that little lectern there in the driveway, and they had a press conference. And then later, Schumer gave one from wherever, Biden gave one. And I was extremely happy to hear that every single one, McCarthy and McConnell and Schumer and Biden, are saying the same thing. Default is not going to happen. It's not an option. And we will, before June 1st, we will end the negotiation. We'll come to an agreement. That was the best news I'd heard.
Well, good. I agree. And again, if you are crazy left or crazy right, you're not going to like that agreement. But
not much
it's not them. Literally, you have to demand Congress go back and get. Congress has the power of the purse. Right, wrong, indifferent, whether you like it or you don't like it, they are the ones that have to pass a freaking budget, period. Now, if you're on the right, you want that budget to have cuts. You want there to be more welfare to work programs.
I don't even agree with that.
What?
The Freedom Caucus believes that. I don't think the rest of the GOP even believe that.
I agree with you, 100%.
It used to be true that the GOP, the Republicans, believed in being physically conservative. Right. Not anymore. Freedom Caucus, and that's about it.
Yeah.
The Tea Party in 2010, they believed in it.
Yep.
But
nobody, the GOP, Republican organization in Washington does not give a hot crap about it.
Doesn't seem to.
Nope, I agree.
They care a little bit. It's kind of like we said earlier, but they care far more about getting reelected.
Yeah, it's crazy. Speaking of elections, Jerry, my last topic today that I'm going to have time to cover, Eric I've got two. I got a good news today, too.
Take them all.
So just wanted to cover real quick. Kentuckians went to the polls on yesterday, and voted for who they wanted to run for governor this fall. Without any doubt, our governor, Andy Beshear, won on the Democratic side. There was no question there. The nearest competitor had like 1% of the vote.
I don't even know the name.
I don't either. It was a guy and a young lady who was running against him.
We talked about it last week.
No chance.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah. On the Republican side, James Cameron is a director who made that movie with the weird blue people.
It was also Arnold Schwarzenegger's director. Go ahead. I'll tell you this story in a minute.
Daniel Cameron.
Yes.
There we go. Daniel Cameron won for the Republicans. I'm on the fence. I didn't vote for him. In fact, only one person that I voted for won their primary. So apparently I was wrong on all of them.
Doesn't mean you're wrong.
Um,
Means everyone else was wrong.
That's true, especially when it comes to Daniel Cameron. He's a Trump pick. Kentucky's a Trump state, like you said. I don't trust that. I don't. He's too close to McConnell. That makes to me.
No,
I
you
see
don't know he's
McConnell.
close
I
to
see
McConnell.
wishy. That's how I see it. I don't see him being able to beat Bashir in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I think he's going to get dog stomped. I think he's going to understand for the first time in his political career what what's the old saying? Stomping a mud hole and walking it dry is all about.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate for the state
It's
of
not going to
Kentucky.
be. He's not going to get clobbered.
He's going to get smacked
No, he's
down.
not. No,
I will, Jerry.
Okay, what kind of margin?
Let's see.
How much difference between the two?
Bashir's going to win by 20%.
Not even close.
Absolutely.
This
by
is
20%.
a Republican state.
Doesn't matter.
Huge.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
20% Bashir wins.
What are we betting? Another ice cream cone?
Well, no, because you're diabetic, so we're not going to do that. We will bet. I'll bet you a perfect bet. I will bet. I will ride my bike to Georgia and find a homemade peach cobbler. That's what we'll bet.
And what am I betting?
Oh, I'll take ice cream. I'm easy. I'm
20
cheap.
points. 20-point difference.
I think there's going to be a 20. He's going to understand for the first time his political
I think
career.
he'll lose, but I don't think with 20.
What stomping a mud hole and walking it dry is all about. I really do. So there's that.
Real quick, were you through with that?
No, yeah, I'm done.
I read an article today. The most famous line Arnold Schwarzenegger ever uttered in a movie would be what?
Get to the chopper.
No, not even close.
Yes.
And he says himself, people come up to him all the time and say,
I'll
say
be
the
back.
line, I'll be back.
Okay, gotcha.
That happened almost as a mistake between him and director James Cameron.
Oh, really? And some of those mountainous regions that will also eat and I guess for the best word, recycle plastics. And they eat the stuff and it's great. So these cold weathers makes it. Oh, there we go. I can probably pull it up now. So something happened. I don't know what was going on there. So there we go. There we go. Looky, looky. So now I can actually give you the actual article. And this is from Andy Cordley, and he works for the Good News Network. So several microorganisms are capable of destroying the plastic polymers, but they have always been as a result of high heat. Wherever they found these particular microbes, it's been very hot. The problem is when you're trying to do that in areas like landfills that are in New York or whatever. Oh, jeez.
Apparently, someone's here.
Yeah, good gravy. But anyway, long story short, they have now discovered those in
Cold areas as well.
colder areas. There's a total of 9 fungi and 8 bacteria species that are able to digest and eat the plastics. So great news, and that's excellent. That makes me happy. What about you? What do you think?
I think it's awesome.
So we ended up
Now
on
we
good
need to-
news.
Find something similar that will eat methane.
What? Well, it would grow all over your house, is what I hear.
Methane?
That's what they say.
Okay.